for help on our matrix problem, specifically in scene 2, or I should say, and in scene 3. So I'm going to take a little time and go through a bit of each of those. I'm not going to give you the answers or anything, but I'm going to remind you how you can go ahead and work together or work with it in order to solve it. So if we read scene 2, after a quick trip down the highway, Neo broke into the world's top medical schools and stole radiation materials. Investigators are unclear how they will be used in the world-conquering device. 4 long-term patients require 3 kinds of medications. The 3x4 matrix shows the amounts of medication each patient requires each day. If patient A stays 10 days, that's going to be important. Patient B stays 5 days, and patient C stays 20 days. Patient D stays 10 days. How much of each type of medication must the medical staff have on hand? So, as we look at this, one of the things you might be considering is how could we actually use a matrix to solve this? Another thing you might be considering is just what on earth do we do? Well, the individual steps aren't too complicated, so let's go ahead and see. Patient A is going to stay 10 days. So if you look over there, patient A is staying 10 days. I'm still getting used to this. I forgot that there's a cool highlighter thing. Now, if patient A stays 10 days and each day the patient needs 5 units of Prilosec, then that means for Prilosec, Prilosec, for Prilosec, patient A is going to need 5 times 10, which is equal to 50. Okay? Patient B stays 5 days, and he needs 50 units a day. He or she needs 50 units of Prilosec a day. So for patient B, we would do 50 units per day times 5 days, which is equal to 250 units. And then we would go through this and continue on the process for C and D. And you could find the total numbers of units of Prilosec. And then compare your solution to the solutions over here to find out which one does not have enough. You could definitely do it that way. Or, to make your job a little bit easier, go a little bit quicker, you could just set up 2 matrices, multiply them together, and your answer will give you all 3 of your chemicals in the proper order. Matrices are a way to organize information to make things work faster. Now, in order to organize this information properly, you're going to have to think about things a little bit differently than how they're presented. But if you do, it makes things a lot faster. For example, the matrix that we can see here, if you think of this as a big matrix, the matrix that we see here would be a 3x4 matrix. And then if you look over here, we got patient A, patient B, C, and D. I could list those down and I could make that a 4x1 matrix. So if it's a 3x4 matrix and 4x1 matrix, hey, the rows here match up with the columns here. And my result is going to be a 3x1 matrix. My resulting matrix will come up with a 3x1. We could definitely multiply it that way. And all you would have to do is interpret what the results are. So you kind of want to just make your matrix. Oops, there we go. 5, 50, 25, 15, 15, 5, 20, 20, 25, 10, 15, and 30. And multiply that by our other matrix, which is the 4x1. 4 rows, 1 column. So I think the first one is that 10, 5, 20, 10. 10, 5, 20, and 10. And you're going to want to multiply these. Now you can multiply them using a calculator, or you can just multiply them using doing it by hand, which is not too hard. You take every element in a row, and multiply it by the corresponding element in the column. So that row times that column. That'll be the 10 times 5. Hey, that 10 times 5 reminds me of up here. And then it'll be 50 times 5. 50 here times 5 here. Hey, that reminds us of B. And then 25 times 20. Well, he's going to be there 20 days, and he needs 25 units of Prilosec. This guy's going to be there for 10 days, and he needs 15 each day. So by doing this, you would multiply each of them and add them together, and your resulting matrix, like I said before, would be a 3 by 1. So you're going to have 3 different answers here. You have to interpret which one is Prilosec, which one is hydrocone, and which one is Perdisdicen. Yeah, I know how to speak. Okay, so that is part 2, scene 2. If we go down to scene 3, air traffic controllers were startled to find out that one of the military stealth bombers was hotwired and stolen. Later, in Sideway Chalk, they found this note in the runway. An interesting thing I have learned is that everyone around here speaks in code. I've decided to join in on the phone. I have encrypted a word that is connected to DC, perhaps longer than any of its kind. Here is the biology of cryptology methodology. Okay, if A times B equals X, this is matrix multiplication, and thus X times the inverse of B equals A, then X is an encoding matrix, okay? Or the encrypted matrix. It's a matrix that is used to encrypt a matrix. So here we have the encoding matrix and the encrypted matrix. We want to find out what that matrix A is. We want to find out what that matrix A is. And in order to do that, okay, in order to get that matrix to be a specific, to find the inverse of that matrix, what we need to do is look at our B right here and get the inverse of B. Now, if you look at your notes, there are 2 different ways to do this. One way, because it's a 2 by 2, is to use a little shortcut. I'm not going to go through the shortcut. I'm going to give you the basic idea. So if I want to find out what B inverse is, I'm going to take B, and that's 4, 7, 2, and 6. And I'm going to connect it to the inverse, which is 1, or not to the inverse, to the identity matrix. It's 1, 0, 0, 1. Now, complete the elementary row operations to this so that our matrix B, our original matrix B right there, becomes the identity matrix. Okay, and as you complete the row operations, you're going to end up with this. The identity matrix and the other matrix will be B inverse. Now, this matrix is going to include a lot of fractions or decimals, depending on how you think about things. But that's a simple way to get the inverse. You would do several operations to cancel some things out and get it to be nice. All right. So, once you have that, the B inverse, you're going to take that result. Okay, once you have B inverse, you're going to fill it in right over here, and then you're going to take that result and multiply it by the matrix X. Again, you can use matrix multiplication software like a calculator if you borrowed one from class, or you could do it online. Just type in Desmos matrix calculator. It'll be the first hit that comes up. Okay, so you want to multiply those, and you want to find out what the matrix A is. What is the unencrypted matrix? Okay, once you know what it is, then you need to go ahead and read that word. What is that word that comes out of it? Is it the word country? Is it the word person? Is it the word, or not is it the word, but is it a country, a person, an animal, or a city? That's what you want to find out. All right, with that said, I'll bring this video to a close. Don't hesitate to ask any questions on the individual work in here. One of the things I don't want to do immediately is give away everything. I want you to be able to struggle through it, to learn how to handle these things. As you get into college, you're going to have to handle more and more complex problems. This is just one example of that. All right, with that said, have a good day.